And we are here. This is an episode of Talia Talks. You already know the vibes. It's Tuesday, Martes. I'm Talia. I'm from Talia Talks. I am a columnist. I'm a radio show host. I'm a podcast host in this space. And I am so excited to talk to Miss Maria Cruz, right? She's going to give the floor to introduce herself. And we're just going to spend the next 25 minutes checking in about all the amazing things that Maria and her organization does. So, Maria, do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Hi, everyone. My name is Maria Cruz, and I am the current president of the Hispanic Women's League, which has been on action for about 44 years. This is our 44th year. So I'm really excited to be here representing the organization.
So I did your bio. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can read Maria's bio. The way that I think I worded it was community leader, mom, president. I know you recently were awarded recognition by the mayor. I'm not sure if I missed any. Likely I did in between now and then. So is there anything you wanted to add to your introduction? Do you think that I didn't add?
As Thank you, Talia. I feel very humble for all the information you're sharing on me. I have been awarded by the mayor several times. I have received other awards. I try not to keep track of them, but I learned that I have to. I'm also do a mentoring with Say Yes. I do mentoring with the Latina Mentoring Initiative at the Bell Center. I'm just very active out here helping people and just promoting empowerment.
I'm just so excited to interview with you. So I'm going to just give you, as I call it, the rundown. Okay. So first question, you already said your name. Second question is the name of your organization. Why don't you give us a little history of your organization, maybe the mission statement for those who are listening outside of Buffalo? I'm really proud of this organization and one that has personally impacted my life. So this counts as like a big interview for me. Super dope. So why don't you just say a little bit about the history and I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Talia. So I'm very excited. This is my second year as a president. I started with the organization. I joined in the empowerment committee. I became very involved in helping put up events to help our youth and our Latina women. Our overall goal is to empower, advocate, and just support the Latina women and all women in our community. The organization was founded on the basis of using our voices, speaking up for things that affect our children, our Latino community, with major roots in the Lower West Side of Buffalo. And it was created by very amazing women. I don't want to mention any names in case I forget any names, but very, very extraordinary women who have continued to come support. We are very, very happy to have members that support our mission, sponsors that support our mission. And our overall goal is to give out scholarships as we close the Hispanic Heritage Month in October every year. We do give out scholarships to Latina women who are in college seeking higher education. And we also do a lot of education throughout the year on many different topics: home buying, financial matters. We collaborate with a lot of organizations to help bring all this education out to our community.
I was going to say shout out to, I believe is it Evans Bank that you're working with for the net. So exciting, and Latina is evolving. Is there any other partners I think on that project? But I'm so proud of it. It's a networking project. So for those of you who are not familiar with the league, please follow Maria, follow her Facebook. And for those of you who are from Buffalo, please, I would encourage you to attend their events. But Maria, anything that you wanted to add? I think that I have a lot of reflections about why the league is important and why your leadership has been transformative, but also wanting to acknowledge like the history and, families like the Alavencias and just like the really rich culture we have of civic organizations, right? Like the idea that Buffalo neighbors come together to do good work. And, that's the idea of coming together. So that's one of the reasons I love the organization.
Talia, thank you for saying that. We have been collaborating with a lot of different organizations in our community. Our goal for the past 3 or 5 years has been to get back into the community, really bring people together, work with many organizations, and just collaborate, because our overall goal is to enhance our culture, enhance, what we're providing, enhance the financial, the well-being, emotional, every aspect of the Latino community. Because when we're wealthy in every aspect, not just monetary, we're able to be citizens of influence in our community and, overall educating, go out to vote, knowing the difference between civic and political, knowing the difference on everything that affects us as a community, and knowing that our voice is powerful. And, you know, my involvement with the league empowers me to use my voice and to bring awareness to things that are happening in our community that otherwise I wouldn't have the platform to do so. And just you mentioned our collaboration with Evans Bank. Actually, Latina Evolving, Evans Bank, and ourselves are the three organizations that are going to be collaborating with the Canisius Women's Business Center. We're going to do a networking event. This is going to be happening this Thursday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at Canisius College. Please follow our website. You know, we have our membership meeting coming up on Monday, the 24th. That's from 6 to 7:30 at 67 Prospect Avenue. We have our brunch coming up October 14th of this year. We're going to be sending out our scholarships are going to be opened up in May. Please be on the lookout for all these things that are happening. In addition, we have our book club that we kicked off maybe 2 years ago. And I know COVID really put a halt in a lot of the things that we were doing. Is going to be kicked off April 30th at 2 p.m. There's links out there. Please register. If you don't can't find them, please reach out to me. Find me on my Facebook, find me on Talia's page, and you will be able to access all these events and register for them.
So I'm just so excited because I just want to throw out there this term. It's called identity affirming. And as an academic, like in my dorky real day job, right, when I'm not being a fun podcast host, I talk a lot about the idea of identity affirming. And I think in Buffalo a lot, in the West Side, like our leaders, like the Alavencias and others who you talked about, including those who advocated for the creation of Herman Baldillo and bilingual schools, they really ingrained that idea of identity affirmation in education in other places. But I feel like for the league, bringing that into volunteerism, bringing that into organizing women has been transformative, because I believe there's been times when you've been the only, if not one of the few organizations that's been specific to representing Latina women throughout the history. So I'm bad at math, but is it like 50 plus years or something?
So we're celebrating our 44th year this year. So
yeah, you just said, okay, 44. That's exciting.
44 years. We're really excited that we've been here. And also, like you said, we've started because of the bilingual program. There was an ad that was in a newspaper. These women saw this. They're like, wait, no one's asked us what we think is best for our children. No one's asked us what's best education-wise. We're going to revolutionize. We're going to come out here and we're going to speak. We're going to ask the things that we want. I'm consider myself a very proud Afro-Latina, specifically a Puerto Rican woman. And just being part of a organization that truly speaks to my identity and allows me to be able to be proud and openly go out into the community and share what my identity is just a plus.
I feel like it's been a huge motivator for me. One of the organizations where I think organized the first space, I went to your brunch as a young person, and I felt the fellowship, and I saw leaders from my community, Crystal Rodriguez and others who were just, dynamic and presenting. I think, giving that lived example and being able to feel motivated in that way. I think going outside of Buffalo and seeing the lack of those spaces really made me understand how important planning is. How long does it take you to plan this amazing brunch, of which I will be attending? But I feel like it's like a full year thing, is it?
So the brunch, we have a whole board of women that I'm very thankful for. We have committees. It takes us a year to plan this. It's very involved. If it wasn't for this amazing board members and the members who volunteer to join our committees to help promote all of this and put it out there, it is a huge event. It's always been a dinner. Post-COVID, we had to move it into a brunch just because, gathering of people and minimizing spaces. So we're hoping that for the 45th upcoming year, we'll be able to move it back into a dinner. It's a big deal. We get to celebrate women. We get to celebrate our community. We get to celebrate each other. We get to gather, enjoy our music, our culture. So absolutely, I'm excited that you're going to be in attendance, Talia, and I encourage everyone to please be in attendance because that is supporting our mission.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's the first time I saw Latinas in higher education. I think for me as a dork, like it was amazing. It was a great lesson for me to see the recipients and their field of study. I paid attention to that as a young person. Where is it that other Latinas are thriving? What is it that they are electing to study? So there's so much education that goes into that. And, I want to thank you. So I think I would be remiss to not say that organizations such as yours helped me with the foundation for the understanding that there would be an audience for Latina history. So, like, even just to decide to write, thinking who would even read my work, right? Like, your organization was on the list. Like, I was like, okay, I hope, they read it. And I remember talking to you early on about my writing and being really encouraging. And now going into, I think, my 29th interview, which eventually I will write about you. So everyone who's listening, my feature this month is Chanel Lopez, who is Deputy Director of LGBTQ Affairs for the Governor, Kathy Hochul. Shout out to her. La Reina, tu sabe. But I will be writing about you in the future. So as I go into my 29th interview and you go into planning another 44th or 45th brunch for Latinas, all with the same idea, right, of celebrating each other, like, what is one thing that you would say to a young person who's looking to get involved to support their community that's maybe not Latino, but wants to create identity affirming spaces? Because I think that they mean different things to different people,
Absolutely. So one of the things that, our name in itself says Hispanic Women's League. And, that was back in the 1970s when that name came through. And I mean, it had a different name. It was the Liga of Professional Women. They wanted to be more inclusive, so they moved it into the Hispanic. So ultimately, what I would say to people who are not Latinos, this is open for everyone. I don't like to use the word ally, but we are, ally collaborations. This is everyone's work. Enhancing our community is everyone's work. And overall, we have to support each other. And what I would say to someone young or anyone looking to get involved with the community, start, small, start, attending the events, start showing up. That's how I started with the organization. I was going to their dinners. I was, sitting at their tables, and I was in awe of how this organization was supporting Latina women. And I just want to be clear that we not only support higher education, we just support women doing anything that empowers them, allows them to be their true self, have their true identity, and just be out here and be who they are authentically, however they are. Overall, our mission is education all around, not just higher education, but our scholarships. I was a recipient of a scholarship. So the Hispanic Women League really, really, really supported me. And back then I didn't even know like the true history of it. So just being part of it now and working with such amazing women alongside me is an honor truly for me.
It's cool, and it definitely has a ripple effect. And I think that so much of your work and our work in these spaces does two things. It kind of holds up the history of the people that came before, because when you think of 1970, I think you said, I know my grandma was marching in 63, like actively marching. The story. I don't need to get emotional with like her one pair of shoes from the project. So it's like, for women to come together 6 years later, right, to do something in solidarity, it's like almost like this like movement. And then to see you talk about empowering the future, it's cool. So just a wave, I think, of supportive like energy. And I've always come to understand that there will be like good examples in the spaces that I'm in. Thinking of like the voices of the women that you've recognized, is there anybody that you're like, hey, this person is an example of a future leader that I want to recognize, that I think does really good work in terms of like a certain area? Because I tend to focus on folks who do volunteerism or government work, or like you kind of well corrected me, like college work. But I think of our Latina veterans. I think of our Latinas who are doing work in the environmental justice space and in the activism space. I know you're just like looking to lift all people up, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm in awe of the amount of talent, passion, women that are in our community. To mention names, people like Beatriz with El Bate, people like Jovaria, women who are out here really, really understanding the mission and understanding, the power that we hold as women. People think of Buffalo, we're upstate, we're not, but we're doing major, major, major things. Like there's so much talent, even within the board. We have business owners, we have Soda, we have Tiffany, we have all these amazing women, Natalia. I mean, I didn't want to mention names because I didn't want to forget names and leave people
Yeah,
out.
and then I explicitly asked you, and as I was thinking, I was like, we talked about not mentioning names. That is not the point. I think the point is this. As you mentioned, there are many different types of women who you want to bring and people who you want to bring to court. I think that was one of the things that I wanted to reiterate, that you're looking to empower women in all areas. Shout out to Beatriz. She let me write about her for Latina Herstory, like one of my first 15. Just like literally, yeah, really amazing women. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you. And going forward, thinking about the activities that we have and the challenges that are facing our Latino community, I like to say challenges. I like to say opportunities. As a mom, tap in for me. Talk to me, Maria. Mom to mom, what are the things that you're excited about for your children? And what are the things that you think we need to do more work around?
So I'm a mother. I have a daughter that's 18, soon to be 19. She's a freshman at Buff State. And I have a 17-year-old son. They're both drivers. They're both going to school. They're both doing a lot of stuff out. And for me, it's great that I have been put in a space, or that I put myself in a space where I'm able to empower them to know that anything that they want to do, they can do. Some of the things that I feel should be more available for the youth is access. We often talk about, the things that are happening in our community. But when I was growing up, the league was around. I had no idea. There's all these different organizations, not just the league, that are here to support the youth and help them promote who they are. I also wish that there was more education around that. You don't necessarily have to go to college. You don't necessarily have to take that route. Like right now, my son is questioning, is that the route that he really wants to go through? Doing FAFSA applications with my daughter, looking at the financial expenses. Is it really worth, or are there other routes? Like there's such thing as 2-year college. There's other things that people can do to enhance their life. It doesn't necessarily have to be through college. Opening your business. You taught yourself how to do your own podcast without, needing
the website. Thank you. Thank you, because I know you knew me before I launched the website. You're like, you made a website. I was like, yo no sé. But no, I agree with you. And I think that one, displaying intellect is so important, and how we do that and when we give our kids the opportunity, and how we allow them to do that, if that makes sense. Like I value art, right? We come from Buffalo that has such a strong arts community. But as a young person, even though I lived in Allentown and my parents had a strong appreciation for art and theater, my mother took theater very seriously. Irish classical theater, what up? That's my mom's place. But like, I didn't look at it as an occupation. I didn't know, I don't know how to explain that. So it's like, for me, I want to reiterate that to my son, like the arts is their jobs there, and just kind of different layers of expression I think I want for him. And I think I sometimes worry, like you, they get very specific messages of this is what success is, and it has to look like this. So you're a Buffalo State, you're a Bengal mom. Let's go.
I'm really excited. I like what you just said, Talia. You pretty much summarized what I said. We have to give a different message of what success looks like. That's an individual thing for each person. And I see the success in being happy, in doing the things that you truly love, in dressing how you want, and speaking how you want, without having to code switch, without having to do anything that makes you not be your true self.
Okay, so I'm really excited about trying to challenge myself to stick within a certain time. I'm going to make this like one of the realest podcasts I've ever had. So, with that being said, I'm going to ask you about 3 things. One, I'm going to ask you about voter registration, because I think that you and I both know that Latinos are amongst the largest percentage of incoming voters in every major state, right? What are the messages we should be giving our people around voting, around civic and political engagement? It doesn't have to be party specific, right? And then I ask you because you know that I've talked to you privately about wanting to start a podcast for Latinas specific on this topic. And then the last thing I'll ask you, because my last question is, do you have a question for me? Which is so fun. But like the last sub B part of the question is, for me, what are the areas that you think we need to advocate more for, in our case, Puerto Rico, but as Latinas, as we stand in the mainland, for our either home countries or barrios. So kind of two questions. And then the third is, do you have a question for me? But politics, and then how do we fight for the people standing, I don't want to say behind us, but because I think para norte and then Puerto Rico's this way, but do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I just want to understand, what do you think the message would be relative to politics?
I think the power that us Latinos have, and we don't recognize that we have that power. Like, we are a large majority. I don't even use the word minority. I've never enjoyed or liked that word. We are a huge majority. We are powerful. We are such a big population, and we could put whoever we want in those seats, but we have to come out and vote. We have to register. We have to trust that our voice is enough, and that us going out into those polling stations matters. You know, people say, oh, my voice doesn't matter. It's not going to make a difference. It will. There's power in numbers. So overall, the message should be out there that Latinos, we matter. We're big. We're powerful. We're like
heavy.
Revolutionary. Yeah. Wepa.
Big wepa, not a little one. Okay, so I'm not going to ask you what your party affiliation is, because that's not important. I think what the message is get engaged, get involved. And I think one of the things that I want to reiterate, I was on a webinar with the Center for Community Media, which is a place where I found great resource. And I was on there with someone in their family lost their life in the South going to vote. Now, I think about my grandmother putting her physical safety at risk, but glory be to God, gracias Dios, she went with her church. Like, she didn't suffer any harm. But people forget people died for the right to vote. And I think for us, thinking about Latinas being in our age group, I think factually being the largest subgroup of the largest group of American laborers. So the American labor force, son Latina, right? And our age group is one of the largest age groups. And it's like, I just want to say to us, like, we got this. So, you know, hopefully you'll be a guest and others will be a guest. You know, we talked about others that you had mentioned before coming on, but I really think a distinct space needs to be made to really interface and say, hey, we're here as voters, not moms, not you and I talking as friends about success, but I put my voting cap on and it's red, white, and blue. Anyway, thank you for that. And then the next question that I had for you is, how do you think that two questions. In what areas do you think we need to better advocate for the women in Puerto Rico? And or how do you think we could do that? And that I would also say that answer in duplicity to Mexico, you know, Dominican Republic, any Latina that's standing on the mainland that has a connection to another place.
I think the Latinas, us that are here in the mainland, have this access to these resources that allow us to speak up freely, without, you know, that recourse or anyone attacking us. I mean, we still get, don't get me wrong, we still get, you know, that attack, and we still get that, but we have the liberty to just walk up, do a podcast, and speak on things that matter. So best way to advocate, you know, there's a lot of domestic violence. There's still a lot of like men thinking, you know, that they could overpower us. There's a lot of things that are happening, and not just in that sense, but just in the political aspect and in the political world. We need more women in those spaces. So from this here, we can advocate for those spaces and all the things that are happening in our island and, you know, like you said, Mexico and other Latino countries, to recognize that we here are in a good place to be able to support that way, you know, and I don't mean that way, I mean this way, this way, this way. You know, we have absolutely, Talia. Like, overall, like, we need to do more in speaking up for what's affecting us in our island. For me, I call it the mainland. I know this is the mainland right now, but the island is the mainland for me. So just knowing that and just educating ourselves here on what's happening.
I'm bringing in another question. Rep your pueblo. Okay, this is a Stephanie question. What is your pueblo, and what's your favorite meal when you go back to your pueblo in Puerto?
So I was born in San Juan, but I grew up, Rio Piedras to be exact, but I grew up in Aguadilla. So I love Aguadilla. That's really where a lot of my memories are. And my favorite dish, I want to say arroz blanco con beef y maduro.
I like you. Now I know why, because I have a strong connection to Rio Piedras, and then you're like on my side with that. But Maria, thank you so much for coming, and just like you said, coming authentically, talking about politics, talking about being a mom. As we close, I did want to reiterate your message. I think as Latinas, we have to better advocate for women, from a domestic violence, interpersonal violence perspective. Also for our Latina sisters who don't have the privilege of citizenship, that weighs heavy on my heart. And the way in which our values are interpreted differently, both legally and in real life. And I think you touched on that by just, acknowledging how we want to bring all women to core, not professionals, not this type of woman, not that type of person, all people. So I'm really excited for your voice to continue through your leadership. Do you have a question for me as we close though? Because you are my friend. You are someone who I admire, but you are also my friend. So you have a little bit more leeway in what you may or may not ask me.
First of all, Talia, I want to say thank you. Thank you for becoming a member of the league. That was a big deal. Thank you for doing that. Question for you is, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Okay, I want to be on Univision. Shout out to my friends who have already been on Univision. But when I say that, I succinctly mean I want to do essentially what you are doing is I want to purposely put myself out there and advocate for people in a way that is relevant to them. Like someone asked someone else that question in law school next to me one time, and they had a similar answer. And I was like, that's the smartest thing I've ever heard, because you never know how people are going to need you. Do you know what I mean? But in my mind, where I would love to be would be this space of media, social justice, empowerment. Like I love being in the community media space. I'm grateful for places like the CUNY Center for Community Media, which I'm finding out about, and other places, Casimiro, who sits on the board for WNED, like other Latinos who are kind of integrating these spaces, who can talk with me. But I'm just a dork, continuing to be a dork, tell stories and talk about history. I'm like, hold on, the historical significance. But I think I would say succinctly service. Like I just want to be a good public servant. I want to be a good neighbor. And then in 5 years, my son he'll be turning 11. So I'll probably be interested in buying a couple cows, some farmland, because of the way he eats. He's 4 feet and 5 years old. So God knows when he's 11 what we're going to be looking like. But thank you so much for joining me in this space. This is, I believe, my first official Talia Talks episode that I've hosted on YouTube Live. So thank you for learning StreamYard with me and for taking your patience to speak with me. I'm going to end the broadcast, but if you'll just stay with me, I'll just, talk with you a little bit more. Thank you a million more times. But to those of you who are listening from inside of Buffalo, we love you. We want to wrap our arms around you. Please come to the league. Please follow Maria and the Hispanic Women's League. Yes. Also, please follow the amazing people that she mentioned, Beatrice, Gio, Tiffany, others who have come before us in this space. And also, if you're from outside of Buffalo, just know we can be a resource to you, whether you're 1,000 miles away, if you're a single person wanting to start an identity specific group, and or if you're anywhere close to us, please join us. I think the league is regional, right?
Yes, the league is right now here, but our goal eventually is to become large, expand, and be able to give out more, but we have to get in more to give out more. So our goal overall is to expand massively.
Yeah. So holler at us if you want to be part of the expansion plan. Thank you. That is another episode of Talia Talks, and I appreciate it. We will see you next Tuesday.